This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1573, Previews! I'm Shane Kelly.
I'm Adam Murdo.
And I'm Chris Eberly.
Woohoo! There we go.
Yes.
And welcome to the show. Previews. Previews.
Faithful listeners, we have returned.
For previews.
Clad in glory.
Clad in glory.
Yeah. Or something like that.
Clad in glory?
Sure.
Yeah, not only that, we've got glory oozing from every pore.
To see us, we'd be all dressed in white. Well, not really, but... this episode of Comic Geek Speak is brought to you by the fine folks at Discount Comic Book Service. That's dcbservice.com. Go there for all your pre-ordering needs. On their website, always check out their front page for their specials, their bundles. They love their bundles. As Jamie used to say, they love their bundles. Hello.
Sure did.
I'm waving to one of Chris's kids. Hello.
Who's holding a Nerf gun to my head? But anyway, go ahead.
On their page, they have at the top, there's a bar that has all their specials for this month. And right off the bat, The Dark Knight 3, 50% off at $2.99. Marvel's relaunch, 50% off for all their, let's see, what did that say there? Did it say their number ones? Try their relaunch bundle at $99.02. Vertigo has a number one bundle at 75% off. DC Series bundle number 1 at 50% off. Bundle number 2 at 50% off. Returning Series bundle at 50% off. And Returning Series Looney Tunes variant covers bundle at 45% off. Because the theme this month for DC is Looney Tunes variants, which were a lot of fun if you look through them. There's also a DC Kids bundle, a Marvel Kids bundle, and a Valiant bundle, all at 50% off. And all DC and Marvel hardcovers and trade paperbacks are 50% off. That's excellent. It's a good amount of bundles. And then there's other specials. I see the Civil War box set slipcase is 50% off. So definitely take a look at their website. Check out their specials and their bundles. Can't beat a good price. So go to dcbservice.com for your pre-ordering needs.
So Marvel's doing what? A relaunch of a relaunch? I've lost track of.
Relaunch of their relaunch from their
Where we are with
relaunched,
all this.
restarted, reconfigured universe.
It is
relaunch.
head spinning, isn't it?
It sure is. Ugh. Start at the beginning of the book?
At the beginning.
As per usual.
Yep.
So,
Dark Horse.
you'll be a cool jerk riding on a dark horse.
All right, right off the bat, page 34. Anytime Larry Hama's doing work, I like to draw attention to it. The great writer of G.I. Joe.
Go, Joe.
He's doing Call of Duty Black Ops Volume 3, Number 1. Now, I've never played the Call of Duty game, but apparently this is acting as a prequel to the highly anticipated game coming out shortly. So it's Larry Hama doing a war comic.
That's not a bad thing.
No, that's probably worth reading. So, and anyone who's enjoyed Hama's work on G.I. Joe, both the old Real American Hero and then the new sort of continuation, which is now through IDW, this may be a book you want to check out.
Boy, I had quite a few people speaking of G.I. Joe. I know we'll see it later in the previews, but I've had quite a few people contact me about I should get back into reading it because it's really just that good.
Now, the Hama stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you because I haven't read any of it, and it's been running now for quite some time.
Yes, it has.
So I think I'm going to start grabbing the trades.
Yeah, me too.
And giving those a shot. So a lot of Dark Horse's books that are already ongoing that we've discussed.
There's one on page 44, Joe Gollum, Occult Detective, a new miniseries. That looks kind of interesting. Mike Mignola writing it. Can't go wrong there.
Christopher Golden artwork.
Christopher Golden, yeah. Patrick Reynolds artwork. Dave Stewart colors.
Oh, that's right. Christopher Golden is one of the writers. I apologize for that. Yep. Well, golems are always interesting characters to me. I mean, my favorite character of them all, Bizarro, is basically a golem figure. And it's written by Mignola, and it's got this golem occult detective up against what appears to be a coven of witches, and not a hackneyed or cliched broomstick cauldron or a warty green face in sight. These are genuinely scary witches. So it's a 5-issue miniseries. If you're a Mignola fan, certainly worth checking out. Plus, at dcbservice.com, it's one of their specials, 60% off the first issue.
Nice.
$1.40. That is 60% off, so that's quite a deal. Even by DCBS standards.
Page 50, Dark Horse continues to take up the Reverend EC line of reprints, the EC Archives, which used to be Gemstone. I'm assuming Dark Horse now has the rights to, I guess, the new ones. This is Panic Volume 1, which is an EC humor comic, which I'm not familiar with personally. I mean, I've heard of it, but nothing beyond that. But again, the talent on it, Al Feldstein, Nick Meglin, Jack Davis, Joe Orlando, Wally Wood, enough said. So... And the next page is a new Baltazar and Franco book.
Sure is. Another itty-bitty Hellboy.
Yep.
Yeah, another itty-bitty Hellboy. Miniseries 1 through 4. The Search for the Jaguar. Jeez, I even have my glasses on.
Their books are so consistently entertaining, so ideal for kids. They were wonderful guests at the Super Show we held in 2013. I encourage everybody to support their work.
And for as many shows as I've taken the kids to, now it hasn't been tons and tons, but I've taken them to Philly, I've taken them to Baltimore. They certainly have come down, well, Ben did, to Wild Pig one time. Everywhere we go, that's any kind of comic book related, they ask if Art and Frank are going to be there. They absolutely love them.
I mean, I really credit them for, there was a period of time, in the 90s, the 2000s, where you didn't really have that many kids' comics.
No.
That were really designed for younger kids, and I mean it's not them alone, but I think they've really made a huge contribution to sort of reinvigorating that part of the comic book medium.
Yeah.
And the kids section we have now at Wild Pig, we have quite a pretty good array of titles, both new stuff and older stuff, and it's just that's just something that's always nice to see because you want kids reading in general, and B, why not have them read comics? So
yeah.
Why not, indeed?
Now, I want to put on page 59, I've been thoroughly enjoying the Rebel series. We talked about that in the past by Brian Wood, and the first arc just ended, and I'm pleased to see that they're going to now look at the Revolution from other perspectives besides the Seth Abbott character we saw in the first arc, which is wonderful. So in issue 8, it's got 2 standalone stories. Meet Silence Bright, Liberty's daughter, who runs an underground print shop in occupied Boston. And Occupation, a Seth Abbott story set during the Great Fire of New York, because New York City was consumed by a fire during the Revolution.
Yeah.
That touches on a topic new to rebels, the freed slaves who fought on the British side. And this shows that Wood has really done his homework on the history, because many Americans are not aware that the British, to help undermine the Patriot cause, because let's face it, many leading revolutionaries were slave owners, such as George Washington. They encouraged slaves to cross the lines, and in return for their freedom, they would fight for the British. And in fact, at the end of the war, thousands of slaves left for Britain with the British Army, rather than remain in the United States and have to return to bondage. So it's interesting that he's picking that up on a not as well known, but a very important part of that era.
Now, that first arc, was that 6 issues and then a standalone issue in 7 and 8, or was it first 7?
Well, the arc just ended. That issue just came out a week or so ago.
Okay.
So there's been
number.
Yes.
Yeah, number 7 is the Molly Pitcher story.
That's
right.
I couldn't remember.
Yeah, Adam's correct. So that again, if you're interested in the American Revolution, or you just love a good history comic, or you just like Brian Wood's work, definitely. I mean, the first trade has not come out yet for Rebels, but when it does, highest recommendation. Page 61, new Greg Pak miniseries, Kingsway West, following the adventures of a Chinese gunslinger trying to find his wife. In a fantastical American Old West cracked with magic, monsters, and racist vigilantes. So,
well, yes, I agree with you, Chris, that Greg Pak, the writer's name, is worth mentioning because he's the one who gave us that excellent Incredible Hercules series several years ago.
Yes, he did. Yep.
Yep, and just the premise itself sounds really fun. It's kind of, call it a sagebrush and sorcery story. It's an alternate Wild West with lots of magic floating around in it, and the sample artwork here shows the hero, Kingsway West, fleeing from what appears to be sword-wielding clansmen riding giant jackalopes.
Yes.
It looks like a lot of fun. I think I'm going to be trying Kingsway West.
Now
What else is jumping out of people for Dark Horse?
That's all I had at Dark Horse, other than to say that Pastaways is up to number 8.
That's a book I did not stay with.
Woefully behind on that as well.
Yeah. Here's a question I have for you guys. On page 62, they're collecting a David Mack series, Dream Logic, which I have not sampled. What do you guys think of David Mack as a creator in general?
I haven't
Better
read
as a cover artist than as an interior sequential guy.
Yeah, I'd probably go with that. I know him more for his cover work than his interior stuff that I've enjoyed.
Fair enough. I tend to side with what Adam said. I've tried to read some of Kabuki.
I can't get through it.
And I couldn't. I just couldn't. I mean, visually dazzling.
Mm-hmm.
And the early Kabuki is more in a traditional comic book format. Then as the volumes progress, the style changes. I found it hard to really get immersed in it. But I've always found his art very interesting.
I think Kevin was into Kabuki a lot, if I remember right.
Well, hopefully we get him on the air at some point to discuss it. Am I familiar with this? I'm sorry, Adam. Say that again.
Notice Dark Horse isn't even trying to tell us what Dream Logic is about. I don't know if it's a single story or just an anthology of different little things. They're not trying to label it in any way. So it seems like it's going to be work that's mostly the draw.
Anybody familiar with the Empowered graphic novels? I'm not familiar with these.
Only that I've seen them. I know Adam Warren more from when he did work with Gen 13 characters.
Okay.
Yeah, he did an Elseworlds, like American manga-styled Teen Titans special called Paper, Scissors, Rock or something like that.
Oh, yeah, I do kind of remember that out there.
He's been doing Empowered for quite some time. It's about a female hero who's... The running gag with her is that her super costume keeps getting ripped up. And I know we have at least one listener up in Canada who is a huge Empowered fan. His name is Andrew. Haven't heard from him in a while. But yeah, I've never actually tried reading Empowered myself, but it seems like it's good for a few laughs.
And it's got longevity. There's 8 volumes available in trade, so that's nothing to sneeze at.
And it clearly has its followers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Should we move on to DC, gentlemen?
To the DC.
And of course, you turn the page, and there it is. Dark Knight, Volume 3, The Master Race. Shane, what do you think?
I don't know. I haven't, and I want to do it. I did order because I don't have a nice hardback of Dark Knight at all. I never have. Okay. I did order when it was solicited the volume for 1 and 2 that comes in one hardback volume. So I will try to read Volume 2 again. I never made it all the way through. I've had some people tell me they like it. Some have not. Most have not. But some that do that I trust have liked it. So I kind of want to give it another shake. I don't know if I'm going to order this issue by issue, or if I'm just going to wait and get a trade or hardback after the fact.
Well, I'm going to... 2 things. One, like you, I have not read The Dark Knight. Is The Dark Knight Strikes Again? Is that the second one?
Yeah.
I have not read it since it came out, so I definitely want to give it another try, because, I mean, that was... How many years ago was that now?
Oh, quite a few.
I mean, that was early 2000s, I think, when that came out.
Yeah, I think it was 2001, possibly 1 into 2.
Yeah, so...
Because I read it recently myself.
Okay, and now, Merge, so reading it recently, what is your impression of it?
I didn't very much care for it. I mean, I think I've gone on... Last time I was asked this question, all I could think of was my indignation at the way Miller treated Superman. And, the few clues we're getting in the solicitation copy for Dark Knight 3 leads me to think that he's going to be at it again, kind of picking up with where he left the Superman, the Dark Knight reality or timeline version of Superman.
Yeah.
Because at the end of that story, Batman had basically prodded Superman into assuming his greater potential as a crime fighter, that being basically becoming a fascistic overlord of the Dark Knight reality. So I think that's probably good. I guess in this Dark Knight 3 story, he's going to be going a little bit overboard with that, and Batman is going to have to track him down again, giving Frank Miller yet another chance to gleefully and heavy-handedly point out to us how much better Batman is than Superman, which I don't hold with at all. Dark Knight Strikes Again in general, it was as much about him flipping off fanboys as anything else. And it had its good points as a story. There were still a few nuggets of quality social satire in there, but not as strong work at all as the original Dark Knight. Okay. And like I said, a lot of it is just him tweaking the noses of certain factions of fandom and cackling all the way to the bank as he did it. So,
well, I'm sorry
now about this third thing. No, I'm done. Go ahead.
I'm gonna give it a try. I mean, you make a good point. Like they show the Superman sigil bleeding on the advertisement page.
Yeah.
So that leads you to believe what you were saying, Adam, about where the story might go. I'm impressed with the creators involved. You know, you have Miller working with Brian Azzarello as a co-writer, I think it's a great art team. Andy Kubert and Klaus Janson, the original inker from The Dark Knight Returns,
right?
Who's one of the, for me, one of the great inkers in comics. I'm gonna read this from issue to issue. My concern, right up front, Frank Miller is one of my favorite creators because he crafted my all-time favorite story, Daredevil Born Again, which listeners will be discussing at some point, I promise. And he also did Batman Year One, which is one of my favorite stories. So I'll always revere Frank Miller's work. Having said that, having read, trying to read Holy Terror, which I just thought was just dreadful on so many levels. I'd be interested to see how Miller performs here when he's working with other creators. I'm wondering, for example, is Miller just plotting, and is Azzarello actually scripting the whole story? Are they scripting it together? I don't know. But it's just interesting to see. When you see Frank Miller in public now, I could be totally wrong. He looks very ill to me.
Yeah, me too.
I was worried.
But that could I could be wrong. So I hope this is I'm rooting for this to be an outstanding piece of work. So, but Mert, I understand your concerns from Volume 2. I look forward to talking about that with you more when I read it again, which I'll be sure to do before this comes out.
Well, and 50% off for issue 1 certainly is no bad thing to try that at least one issue on.
Oh, yeah.
No, I think I may be doing what you thought you might be doing, Shane, and just trade weight on this one, or borrow somebody else's trade, possibly, just so I don't get burned. I do find it interesting that DC spends a lot more column inches here in the solicitation describing the format of the book itself, as opposed to telling us what it's about. There's going to be some kind of silly little 16-page mini-comic bound in with it, and they're actually announcing their trade plans, which is something they very rarely do in advance. I wonder if they really even make trade plans in advance very often for things that they publish. But here they have it pretty well mapped out. They're telling us that eventually we'll get a chance to buy a collected edition that includes all of the story from the main issue and the story from the mini-comic all bound into the same volume at the same size. Well, at the same time, they're offering a collector's edition that does that very thing issue by issue, if you want to pay $12.99 a pop.
Now, the next page, we have two new number ones. Superman American Alien number 1, written by Max Landis, art by Nick Dragotta. Forgive me if I mispronounced that. And then Batman Europa 1, written by Matteo Casali and Brian Azzarello, with art and cover by Jim Lee.
And both are miniseries.
Yes. Is anybody familiar with Max Landis as a writer?
No.
I don't think I've heard the name before either.
Oh, he's a Hollywood screenwriter. I bet he's related to John Landis. That's going to be my guess there.
All right. Chronicle. Yeah, that's a movie I would like to see. And American Ultra, that just came out this past summer. It's about a stoner teenager who discovers that he's actually like a government sleeper agent.
So sure. That was with Jesse Eisenberg.
Right, stoner assassin movie, yeah. So this guy wrote that, and now he's writing a story about the young adolescent and pre-adolescent Clark Kent. It's the adventures of Superman when he was a boy, New 52 style. Which actually might not be so bad. Again, I think that this may be something that I pick up on the cheap later on, but it's stories that I might be interested in reading. Hopefully they'll be a little bit slightly lighter fare than a lot of current continuity Superman stories have been. And as for Batman Europa, well, that's looks like that's going to be... It's a 4-issue miniseries. I think there's going to be... The same artist, Giuseppe Camuncoli, is going to be doing layouts for all 4 issues, but a different guest artist will come in and finish the art over him.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Issue, starting with Jim Lee. Batman and the Joker team up on a crazy Euro road trip to save Batman's life.
Shane, I'm sure you've noticed the variant cover theme this month is Looney Tunes.
Oh yes. That's all, folks.
And you're absolutely right, Shane. A lot of these Looney Tunes variants are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
By the way, on page 76, the Justice League 46, I have not started the Dark Side War yet, but this cover by Francis Manapul is beautiful.
Yes, it is.
It has a very Kirby-esque feel to it. Gorgeous cover.
I have started it, and I have started it, and I love it.
Yeah,
I'm enjoying it very much.
So would you say that this JLA arc is more satisfying than some of the earlier stuff they've been doing?
I would, yeah. The last 2, I think, have been pretty good. I'm behind on Justice League of America, which is up to number 6 with this issue. On page 78 is Justice League United 15, which I did think I just read an article where that's going to be canceled soon.
Oh, too bad.
That's quite disappointing. I thought that had some good potential.
Heck yes.
To keep going, I mean, with the direction they were going to change to.
It's basically a rotating team. I mean, Jeff Parker has he had carte blanche to draw on a whole bunch of different DC characters and throw them together into crazy combinations and tell all kinds of weird stories. But I guess there's something that's not what the DC fan base wants. I don't know. I don't understand very many things DC does these days.
No, I don't.
I'm just reveling in these Tony Harris covers. Oh,
yeah,
phenomenal.
Isn't it though?
Yeah.
Now I'm up on page 82, and I'm just gonna kind of whine about this a little bit. Here's DC Bombshells number 4 and 5 in the same month. Ugh. Give me a break. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, I love page 84, the Looney Tunes variant cover where the Flash is trying to catch up to Speedy Gonzalez and the Roadrunner.
I like the next one on page 85 with Robin Hood, Daffy Duck, and Porky with Green Arrow. Dodge, turn, parry!
Dodge, turn, parry, dodge, spin.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
That's a great cartoon.
And, a lot of these are titles that are, we've talked about that are well underway. Is anybody reading any DC titles they want to talk about now that they're enthused about?
I'm actually behind on a lot. I've fallen behind on Grayson and Omega Men, which I think Omega Men's even ending with issue 8. Even though I don't know if it was supposed to now be a miniseries or if that's just something that's stopping. But that kind of, I'm pretty sure I read that. That kind of bothered me too.
Well, Grayson, I'm current on Grayson.
Yeah, I don't think it's announced.
It's Grayson is one of the few DC titles I'm staying with right now. It's still, I think it still delivers the goods month after month.
Excellent.
So, just very well done espionage stories with Dick Grayson.
For the most part, I'm down to ordering Grayson and the multiple different Justice League titles and Earth 2 Society.
Now, I have to speak for Danielle here because she wasn't feeling well, so she couldn't join us. She sends her regrets. If we were on page 96, she would once again be horrified by the Wonder Woman costume. And, how busy that design is. I'm sure she would comment on that. So,
and I think Sensation...
That was for you, my dear.
Sensation Comics featuring Wonder Woman is going to come to a close as well soon. Oh, I love that on page 97, the Action Comics variant of Bugs Bunny as Superman. That was a funny episode as well.
Super Rabbit. Talking of titles we're reading that from DC that we think are doing well. Page 91, Secret 6 is back on track and back on a regular release schedule now. And I must say, as underwhelmed as we all were by the first issue of that, I think it's found its footing a few issues in. It's got a lot more to do with the mainstream DC universe than it seemed at first blush. One of the characters in there is, without spoiling too much, is actually an established DCU character in disguise. And the true identity of Mockingbird has been revealed.
Okay.
Mockingbird is always the mysterious figure, anonymous figure who organizes the Secret Six. And we know who it is, and it's someone you'll recognize, and I think it's a pretty cool reveal.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
That's good to know.
I am liking Secret Six now.
Great pitch, Murd, because I really enjoyed the Secret Six in the original DC universe.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad to hear that. And didn't Dale Eaglesham do work on the original Secret Six series? Am I wrong in saying that, or?
You very well may be right about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So. Pants could tell you better than I could. He was probably a bigger fan of that series than either of us.
Well, DC is collecting the Secret Six from the old DC universe in some larger trades.
Yes, they are.
And that's it. Just to listeners, if you're interested in going back to the original DC universe and wanting to try a new series, I highly recommend Secret Six, and especially the revelatory way she treats the character of Catman, who up to this point was like this C-tier also-ran villain, is outstanding. So that's a book that I highly recommend in trade format, or if you hunt down the back issues in cheap bins.
Couple other variants that I'm liking is the page 103 Batman the Muggsy and his stooge.
Well, actually, Muggsy is the stooge.
Muggsy is Rocky. Ah, there you go. My God, my brain's
the little
faltered.
guy with the big hat. Yeah.
Shut up. Shutting up. I like the Daffy Duck Detective one on page 105 too.
I got a good laugh out of the Catwoman variant on page 109, where Tweety is sitting in Selina's hand and pointing at her and clearly saying, "I thought I saw a putty cat." And on page 111, it's Harley Quinn giving a new hairdo to Gossamer the Monster.
Yeah.
Jamie's sister Shauna already has that as a background image on her phone.
Nice. Page 108 has Batman 66, number 29. That series, too, is coming to a close, I think.
Oh, that's too bad.
Get out.
Yeah, that's what I thought, too.
Shooting yourself in every foot you have, DC.
Now, I could be completely wrong, but I swear I read that over the weekend.
I want to point out, and Murd, you'll appreciate this especially, on page 118, Scooby-Doo Team-Up number 13.
Oh, fantastic.
Look at this lineup. Spectre, Deadman, and the Phantom Stranger. Oh, what a great cover.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, that looks immensely fun.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Anybody mind if I go into trades?
No, go right ahead. I'm up on 122 with The Demon, Volume 1 by Garth Ennis.
Yes. Remember, Ennis did do some Demon work in his earlier career. Issues 40 and then 42 to 49 plus Annual 2. Again, it's Garth Ennis. It's recommended. I'm always not interested, but so much. I just wonder if trades like this sell. So they have Batman versus Superman on page 119, and they're collecting. It's like a polyglot of different Batman versus Superman, so to speak, engagements.
To
Dark
me,
Knight Returns 4. Go ahead, Shane. I'm sorry.
That's gearing up for the movie.
Yeah, of course.
Good catch, Shane.
Yeah. So
and they're all recent things too. It's like within the past 20 years.
Yeah.
Batman 66 Volume 3. I love the artwork in this book. They capture the show so well. And again, the fact that the main actors are going to return to do an animated version as a DVD release, right, Shane? Next year,
yes.
I think.
I'm a tingle every time I think about it. God, that'll be fun.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
I've never read the Doom that came to Gotham next to that, which they're reprinting the miniseries. Again, it's a Mike Mignola scripting. So, has anybody read that story?
Oh, boy, I think I read that when it came out way back when. I don't remember about it, though.
I don't think I even knew that story existed until having seen the trade here.
Well, that may be worth checking out. On page 121, if you're a Neil Adams fan, they're releasing Batman by Neil Adams, the Omnibus, $99.99. Just make it $100.
Yeah, I know.
Where they're printing again the various Batman appearances that Neil Adams penciled in the primarily the Bronze Age, and then they're doing his later Batman Odyssey, Batman Black and White. You've got great stories written by Denny O'Neil, and then one of Murd's favorites, Bob Haney. Some of his stories from the the H universe, Murd they call it, Universe H or something like that?
Earth B.
Earth B, okay, that's right.
Bob Haney, and also for Brave and the Bold.
Ah, yes. So that should be fun. If you want to spend that amount of money, it's classic stuff. Page 122. This is a series I never read. Deathstroke the Terminator. This is collecting issues 10 to 13, but it's written by Marv Wolfman and Dan Jurgens.
Yeah.
So that's probably worth checking. Has anybody read that series?
I read sporadic issues here and there when it featured somebody that I was interested in.
Yeah.
I think I read one or two of the annuals that crossed over with DC annual stories I was reading. Well, Eclipso, certainly.
Okay,
but I kind of think that the cover we see here might be from the Eclipso annual.
And it's issues 10 to 13, annual 1, and Superman 68 for $14.99, which is a reasonable price for a trade.
Yeah.
And the next page, Green Arrow Volume 4. They're continuing to reprint the magnificent Mike Grell series.
That was a good series.
Which I highly recommend.
And read
issues. I'm sorry, Shane, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Read Longbow Hunters first, and then read
Absolutely. Good tip. Good tip. Very good tip. Longbow Hunters, for me, is one of the all-time great Green Arrow stories.
Yes, it is.
So that's issues 21 to 28. Now, granted, you can often find Green Arrow issues from this series in bargain bins. You certainly can at Wild Pig Comics, 14 South Michigan Avenue, Kenilworth, New Jersey. So they're out there. But if you want to go right to the trade, these are well worth getting.
Yeah. I like that they're continuing with the previous Nightwing series. Also, Volume 3 is on page 125.
Which is well worth it, because I think that was an outstanding series.
I do, too.
I know Scott McDaniel's art is an acquired taste for some people. And I like him in some series more than others, but it worked for me here.
It did me, too. This one collects 19 to 25, the 1 million issue, and the miniseries Nightwing Huntress 1 through 4, which I also thought was fun.
Which is very good. That's artwork by Greg Land, I believe. Danielle has some great original art pages from that series in her house. It's a great look at the Huntress, her mentality, and how she interacts in more ways than one with Nightwing.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. And notice they're doing another on page 124, another DC Celebration hardcover. This time, it's 75 years of Lex Luthor.
He's evil.
Yes, we're not being told from which stories and or creators this collection's content is sampled, but Luthor is still one of my favorite characters, at least his pre-Crisis incarnation. So that's enough to at least get me to prick up my ears, if not shell out my $40 for the collection.
And Murd,
I haven't bought any of these that he's doing so far.
Murd, I knew you were going to mention that because I was dismayed as well to see they're not telling you what's actually in the book. So all they say is Jerry Siegel to Jeff Johns. Okay, well...
That covers some ground.
Hopefully some Elliot S. Magan in between, because he wrote a very good Bronze Age Luthor. But yeah, the very fact that they're not telling you what's actually in these 75th anniversary retrospectives is a key reason why I haven't bought any of them yet.
Yeah.
Now, page 126. If you don't get Suicide Squad, that's fine. However, this one in particular is one of my favorites because it has Suicide Squad Volume 2, The Nightshade Odyssey, features Suicide Squad 9 through 16, and Justice League International 13, and the Doom Patrol Suicide Squad Special 1. Well, the Justice League International 13 coincides with the Suicide Squad issue 13, and the covers have reverse perspectives of the same artwork, or the same battle, so to speak. So that's a fun 2 issues. I always thought anyway. But I'm certainly biased when it comes to Justice League International.
That is your right, sir. It was a fun series.
It was fun.
All right, moving on to Vertigo.
Hold on a minute.
Yep. Oh, please, sir, please.
Page 127, we have a couple of reprint things. DC Comics Presents, bringing back that title. Lois and Clark 100-page Super Spectacular. So it's reprinting some of the pre-Flashpoint details of the Superman and Lois Lane wedding, 96 pages worth. And below that, some very early Teen Titans stories, and written by, guess who? Bob Haney. So, yeah, the couple of tryout appearances from Brave and the Bold for the original Teen Titans, just Kid, Flash, Aqualad, and Robin, and also the first and fourth issues of their first ongoing series. Kind of odd selection there, but still, Silver Age fun for 96 pages, $8.
Now, Murr, just so listeners understand, Bob Haney, he's known for writing sort of these out-of-continuity stories, right? Especially in the Bronze Age, essentially.
Yeah, Silver and Bronze, yeah. But he was never one to allow continuity to get in the way of a good story, or a bad story, for that matter. He's kind of affectionately remembered for having turned in quite a few stinkers, whether they completely ignored continuity or not. So, yeah, he's somewhat famous, somewhat infamous.
Is he deceased?
Did he what?
Is he deceased?
I'm pretty sure that he is, yeah.
Okay. All right, and, well, what's jumping out of people from Vertigo? There's some new series here.
Yep. Which are available in a Vertigo #1 bundle from DCB Service this month. Well, the one of these I'm thinking of buying is Red Thorn on page 130, by virtue of Scottishness. One from my friend James Richardson in Scotland right now. So it takes place on the rain-soaked streets of Glasgow, and it's got Scottish folklore and some mysticism happening. And it seems like it's taking it to the street level of modern-day Glasgow. So, yep, that's something as a descendant of Scottish immigrants myself, I'm interested in it for that reason.
All right. Was he the gentleman who found you that GI Combat issue, Murd?
And also the one who swapped me a haggis and a can of Earn Brew for a Hershey cookies and cream bar and a can of Pennsylvania Dutch birch beer. Fine trade.
And who says diplomacy is dead? That's magnificent.
You know what? I don't think he didn't give me a GI Combat issue, but he did find one and showed it to me.
Oh, okay.
I think it might have been Eamon Clark that actually gave a copy of it to me. Forgive me for misremembering that.
Now on page 136, it's an iZombie omnibus hardcover for all 28 issues. So if you're interested in the TV show and you've never read it, that might be a good way to grab it all.
You know, I've yet to watch the show. I know it's a Rob Thomas show, right? And I love Veronica Mars, so everybody tells me I'm going to love this show.
Yeah, that's what I hear too, and I just can't bring myself to do it.
I just haven't gotten around to it. It's funny because, and in no way do I mean this as a negative, but before you have a family, you have so much time to watch television, and once you have a family, you really have to prioritize what TV time you get in. And
you got it.
It's hard because there's shows I definitely want to watch, but there's just you just can't fit them in.
That's the enjoyment I'm having with Netflix right now, catching up on some things I've missed.
There's a Strange Sports Stories trade because DC did a new version of that series. I thought that was one of the more interesting and bizarre DC series of the Bronze Age.
Yeah.
So they've returned to it as a Vertigo series here. There's some great creators on it. Gilbert Hernandez, Amy Chu, Paul Pope, etc. Oh, Shane, here we go. Page 139, just in case you were wondering. Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, Armored Batman statue. Clearly patterned after The Dark Knight Returns.
Very much so. Yeah.
What are your guys' feelings on this movie? I mean, granted, we only have a couple trailers.
Well, I have slightly better hope for it more recently. Mm-hmm. I'm still going to go see it no matter what, and I still think Ben Affleck will be great as Batman. I'm just not sure about the premise and cramming in so many heroes in one movie as time goes on.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. We're going to see Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Green Lantern, right?
I think that's it, yeah.
I think there are going to be hints of other characters, too.
Okay.
Cyborg, possibly. So, yeah, train wreck.
Yeah.
20 color would still be entertaining, but it's got all the earmarks of an impending disaster. But Matt said he's definitely going to go see it. I will definitely go see it. I'll give it a chance.
Me too.
Leery, Leery.
I'm definitely going to give it a chance because, we should definitely review it because that'll be fun. And, I liked Man of Steel. I mean, the battle at the end was way too long. And Zack Snyder, I don't always care for the way he directs films overall, but I still enjoy the movie. I thought Henry Cavill was outstanding as Superman.
Yeah, I thought so too. I liked it well enough.
So I'm rooting for this movie. I hope it, reaches beyond what people are expecting of it.
And my like of Man of Steel was not right away. I didn't like it when it came out of the theater. It took until I watched it once or twice more once the DVD came out that I really grew to enjoy that movie more.
Well, I was taken by, first of all, the way they used Russell Crowe as Jor-El and Krypton. I thought that was extremely well done. And I thought the casting was very good in that film. Kevin Costner is ideal as Jonathan Kent.
Yeah.
And I loved Amy Adams as Lois Lane. There was a lot of things in the movie that I thought really worked. So, Shane, what made you warm to it over time?
I think part of rewatching the whole opening part with Krypton and the scenes with Kevin Costner, that helped. I wish we would have had more scenes with Kevin Costner as his father. I would have liked to have seen just some more interaction. I also liked his exploration of who he was, getting into that ship, talking to his father.
That's a great scene.
That's a lot of fun. That becoming kind of his fortress of solitude somewhat in this movie. I totally still agree with you that battle went on way too long. But yeah, by the end I was satisfied enough that after watching it a few times, I'll usually, if I put it on to listen to it or watch it, it'll be probably the first hour and a half, and then I turn it off and go do something else or put something else on. And not because I'm not interested in just finishing it. I usually get distracted with something else more important is what happens. And then the next time around I go to do it, I start it over.
Anything else for DC before we move on?
Only on page 140, the next series of Batman animated series figures has Ra's al Ghul, or Raz. I never know which one to say it, even though we've debated about that forever.
I believe Denny O'Neil has said Ra's al Ghul.
Ra's al Ghul, okay.
Yeah, I believe.
Commissioner Gordon, Zatanna, which is fun, and Etrigan and Clarion the Witch Boy.
Moving on to IDW.
Sure.
I'm looking at page 151. We mentioned this last time. Larry Hama writing a G.I. Joe event in his they're using the numbering of his Real American Hero book, Cobra World Order. This is where I'm going to jump into this title because I ordered the prequel issue for it last month. Okay. And I love the alternate covers where they use the original file cards for the G.I. Joe toys from the early 80s. So that I'm definitely I'm a huge Larry Hama fan, so I definitely want to give this a shot.
Yeah, that might not be a bad idea to jump on at this point.
Yeah. Oh, look on page 157, the Ghostbusters Annual 2015. That looks interesting.
Page 154, we have the 5th issue of the 5-issue Godzilla in Hell miniseries. Written and drawn, mostly drawn, since these stories are primarily wordless, by a different writer-artist. And this time it's our friend Dave Wachter who draws a mean Godzilla, or monster in general. He was telling me way back in March at the London Super Comic Convention how excited he was about his concept for his issue of this miniseries. It's finally solicited. Don't miss it.
Well, to piggyback on that, to me, Dave Wachter is one of the finest artists working in comics today. He may not be as well known as some other artists in terms of the mainstream, like DC and Marvel work, but the guy is so talented. And when he did the Super Show he ran back in 2013, the Thanos sketch he drew for me, which is hanging in the wall of the store, on the
out of this world,
walls of the store, is unbelievable. This guy should be getting work all the time. Extremely talented and also just a very nice person to talk to. So, great artist. Everything he does should be supported.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. Now, if Pants were here on page 170, no doubt he'd talk about the Artist Edition, another EC Artist Edition, Graham Ingalls stories. I mean, again, it's an EC artist. It's an artist edition. Original art scanned in. What more do you need to say? I mean, these editions, they're expensive, but if you're a lover of original art, they're well worth it. Just have a lot of space in your house to display them because
they're huge.
Big.
They're huge.
But it's great stuff. Here's interesting. On page 172, this is a creator I've always loved. He actually did a signing in my second store location in Westfield, New Jersey, years ago. Alex Robinson. Some people might know from the great indie series Box Office Poison. He also did what is it?
Tricked.
Tricked, and then the one about the guy who goes back in time. Forgive me, I'm forgetting the name of it. It's very good.
Too Cool Forgotten, possibly?
Yes, that's it. Well done, sir. I think he's a top-notch creator, and it says here he's returned with a spiritual sequel to his Eisner debut, Box Office Poison. It's been 15 years since the young cast of that beloved drama graced the stage. Wow, 15 years. Oh, my God.
Jeez.
Now Expanding Universe has introduced another Robinson ensemble to explore how time can transform a group of friends. Marriage, children, affairs, divorce, that's just the beginning. I am completely in for this story. It's a trade paperback, so it's an original graphic novel. And as Publishers Weekly says here, a master of the slice of life indie comic genre. I agree with that wholeheartedly. If you love, like Box Office Poison is a story about different characters who are sort of in the post-college netherworld of their mid to late 20s. It's so well done, and if you don't relate to the characters in that book, you know people who like that when you were growing up, not growing up, but when you were in your 20s, and sort of that netherworld after college where you're trying to kind of find your footing and so forth. It's a masterful book, and I'm very excited to read this. So highest recommendation. Alex Robinson, a top creator.
On the next page is the San Diego Comic Art Gallery Kevin Eastman Exhibition Collection. Features on the cover Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, so that probably is pretty awesome to look at.
Page 175, they're continuing the reprints of the Amazing Spider-Man newspaper strips, Volume 2, 1979 to 1981. Art with John Romita Sr., then Larry Lieber, all written by Stan Lee. If you're a huge fan of Spider-Man history, these are definitely worth checking out.
I was reading them at that point in the comics. In the newspaper strips.
Page 176. I'm sorry, Murd, go ahead.
Yep, on page 174, we've got the latest in IDW series of trade collections of the Thunder Agent series from Tower Comics in the Silver Age. They're up to the sixth of these, issues number 15 through 19 of the Silver Age series. Some big names working on this stuff. Wally Wood, Gil Kane, Steve Ditko, George Tuska, Berks County PA's own Dan Adkins. I've been buying every volume of this, and I will be buying this one as well. It's good independent superhero stuff from the 60s. It's some of the best superhero comics being produced someplace that wasn't Marvel or DC at that time.
Murd has spoken. That's all we need to know. I was going to note on page 176, this is an artist I always feel gets overlooked, and he's so important, is Don Heck. He was right at the beginning of the Marvel Silver Age. He did important early work on the Avengers, for example. And this is some of his horror work. He also did, of course, early work on Iron Man. He's considered one of the co-creators of Iron Man. And in the 50s, he did pre-code horror comics and covers. So that's a collection of that. And again, Tomorrow's did a whole tribute book to Heck as well, which I have. He's an artist who deserves more accolades than he sometimes receives. Outstanding.
You gotta love the title. Horror by Heck.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump back to page 159 quick here. Shane, what we have here is a trade of a series that interested you when it was first solicited. But I think we all kind of decided against it because the solicitation copy didn't give us a good enough idea of what the story was actually about.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yep, it's called The Infinite Loop, and it is one of those timey-wimey things that you're so fond of, Shane.
Yep.
And now we know what it's about. It's actually a lesbian love story, in addition to being a time travel story. It's about a futuristic time cop who meets the girl of her dreams, only to discover that she's a time paradox, a walking continuity error. So she's faced with a dilemma here. Does she do her job as time cop and iron out this wrinkle in the time stream and eliminate this girl with whom she's so smitten from existence? Or does she turn a blind eye and enter into romantic bliss with this person? So it's a love story. It's a time travel story. It may be worth a look. And the artwork by Elsa Charretier, I'm hoping that's how that's pronounced, looks a little bit like Darwin Cook's stuff. So.
Yeah, it sure does.
Mert, I'm glad you brought this to my attention. I missed this, and this is a concept that I'm a sucker for, and so I'm going to try this as well.
Glad it's out in a trade finally. And that we have an explanation for it.
Yes, really. Yeah, there's sort of a pattern emerging here, actually, me complaining about lack of descriptive copy in these things. So take note, major publishers. Detailed product solicitations sell books.
Of course they do.
That's right, they do.
It's common sense, for pity's sake. People are dollars are hard earned and limited, and you're not going to risk it on something you have no idea, especially if it's an expensive book like that Lex Luthor book, not knowing what the hell's in it. So
we're like posters being solicited with no images.
That is, it's mind-blowing, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Anybody ready for Image?
Ready for Image.
All right,
bring it on.
Right away. The goddamn #1, Jason Aaron, as the writer, and his artist and co-creator on Scalp, one of the great Vertigo series of all time, R.M. Guerra, in immediately. I don't even care what it's about. In. All right, and I'll read the solicitation. It's 1,655 years after Eden, and life on Earth has already gone to hell. The world of man is a place of wanton cruelty and wickedness. Prehistoric monsters and Stone Age marauders roam the land. Murder and destruction rule the day. Humankind is a failed experiment. This is life before the flood. The story of man on the verge of his first apocalypse. Welcome to the world of a god band. Oh, can't wait to read that. Art looks tremendous. So...
Biblical noir. Fascinating.
Well put, Merd.
There's even an epigram from the book of Genesis here. And the earth was filled with violence. That sets the stage.
As always, Image has a host of new #1s to check out.
Page 190, Citizen Jack #1. It's a story for anyone who likes crass political humor. It's about a presidential candidate who makes a deal with a demon and then quickly gets in over his head.
Don't they do that in real life on a regular basis?
Perhaps not on quite so literal a level, but see, it's satire. Page 192, a new volume of Mark Millar's Jupiter's Circle, which has been coming out on time, remarkably enough. Page
I'm sorry, Adam. That's a book I want to get back to because I love the sort of the foundational history established in the original volume. So I really want to read. I have them all. I just haven't read them yet. These stories about these heroes when they were younger, the original sort of pantheon. So that sounds interesting to me.
Absolutely. Yep, that was, to me, the most interesting thing about Jupiter's legacy also. Not the whiny little brat super people that were supposed to be the main characters. I think Miller has picked up on that by now, and he's giving us stories about the older generation. Let's see, page 193, we've got this year's Thought Bubble Anthology. A bunch of little indie short stories put together by people who have appeared at the Thought Bubble Comics Festival, taking place in Leeds in the United Kingdom. A couple of old friends of ours helped to organize that.
Again, Image. I'm sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
On page 197, Kurt Busiek's The Autumn Lands, originally called Tooth and Claw. It's coming back with a new arc. It's kind of like a sword and sorcery epic taking place in a Commandy type landscape. So think like Lord of the Rings meets Commandy.
Well, as a huge Busiek fan, this is a book I'm ashamed to say I have not read at all, so I have to put that on the list. The previous page, we mentioned this last month, Paper Girls #2. It's a new Brian K. Vaughan book. That alone demands attention as far as I'm concerned. And the art is by Cliff Chang. So, wow. I really look forward to issue 1 when that comes out. next month. So. I say this every month, but I'll say it again. Image right now, for me, is the essence of what comic books should be about. Every conceivable concept and genre under the sun, basically. Just terrific.
Yeah, there's sure no lacking for diversity here.
Nope.
Oh, yes. Something for every taste and every interest.
Yep. On page 208, we have a new Mark Miller book, Huck #1. In a quiet seaside town, Huck uses special gifts to do a good deed each day. His neighbors return the favors by keeping his abilities a secret. When a newcomer alerts the media, a firestorm erupts, sending Huck on an adventure that will change everything. This brand new series from writer Mark Miller and artist Raphael Albuquerque presents a comic book unlike anything you've read before. So, all right. Miller usually does right by me, so.
And it seems an awful lot less, violent and cynical than a lot of things that Miller does these days. This is kind of a feel-good look to it. And it's kind of like, what if Superman were somewhat like Lenny from Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men? Well, sounds like a good concept to me. And it's the first issue is 50% off at dcbservice.com this month.
Well, I'll definitely be checking that out.
Page 222, I know I'm pretty far up ahead, has a premiere hardcover of Black Science. I know I have the first volume at home that I have to read, but this collects, it's 432 pages, collects Black Science 1 through 16, so that looks like a pretty good chunk of volume to read.
I've heard that book is wonderful. I love the commander. I've yet to read it.
Yeah, me too. I see Saga's up to number 31, starting a new arc. I still have to get volume 4 of that and read that.
Anything else for Image, gentlemen?
Only that I see on page 232, and I thought I saw this in a store already, some of these Walking Dead toys. If you're interested, these are like almost like a 3 3/4 inch scale, but it's a small scaled series that depicts scenes from the show and vehicles, characters, of course. But they're very detailed, as most McFarlane stuff is.
They look very nice. Have any of you got to the point of Walking Dead where I jumped off?
No.
Okay.
No.
I look forward to that discussion when you get there.
I know. I keep putting it off.
That's all right.
Yeah, I'm no further along than I was 8 years ago, I'm afraid.
Okay, I'm a little further than that.
I read the ones that we read to do a book of the month on it back in 2007, I believe it was, and just haven't revisited it since. But I remember I tore through those early trades, like they were cotton candy.
I think I'm up
One
to...
day I will get back to that world, and hopefully I won't be quite as disappointed as you've been, Chris. But I doubt that I won't be.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see, brother. We'll see.
I think I'm up to 14 or 15.
All right, now here's the question. Are we ready to go into Marvel?
Yeah, I guess.
Shane! You sound like I'm asking you to walk the plank.
I don't know. To open
right,
it up...
Here's what I'm excited about. Right off the bat,
all right.
I've always loved the Black Knight, and I like that they're giving the Black Knight a new book. I like Frank Thierry as a writer.
Okay, so what else has he done? Because that name does not mean much to me.
He's done the comic work that I've enjoyed.
Okay.
That's what I'm most familiar with. Murr, looks like you're gritting your teeth.
I have not seen much by Frank Thierry that I thought was worth spit, honestly. The first time I ever saw his name was... remember that Weapon X series that Marvel did in the early 2000s?
Yeah,
I think he was the original writer of that.
Okay.
And disliked what he did there enough that I've kind of avoided other comics I've seen with his creator credit on them.
Well,
if I remember again, Chris, what it was that...
If I remember correctly, when Brian Wood finished his magnificent run on Conan, was it Thierry who took over? I could be. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong. If I remember that correctly, because I don't have anything in front of me, I really enjoyed what he was doing with Conan as well. So I'm still willing to give him a chance here because I love the Black Knight. He doesn't get that much play in the Marvel Universe at all. So I'm interested to see what he does with the character. Now, I got to admit, and I based on this resignations in Shane's voice, I know I can understand where he's coming from. This Marvel previews is daunting to get through because it's a whole new slew of relaunches,
which I thought we just did.
Yeah, and some of them are interesting. Like, they're doing a Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur #1, for example, on page 30. You've got a new Hercules book written by Dan Abnett with art by Luke Ross, who I think is a tremendous penciler. That's certainly probably worth checking out. Deadpool being relaunched for the millionth time. Jerry Duggan, I'm not familiar with his work. I know the name, but
Tom King's on Vision on page 46.
Anything Tom King writes, I'm trying immediately.
Oh, absolutely.
And the Vision is a character I've always loved, so I'm interested to see what he does there.
But I guess between DC's more recent years of relaunching and now Marvel's, I'm just relaunched out. I'm tired of every couple months being more new #1s than what there were. Or like Squirrel Girl just had a #1, now we had another #1.
Shane,
just need a
you
break.
recall our conversation last Comic Talk where Bill and I talked about why we were dumping our new book wall?
Oh, yeah.
This is a perfect example of why we're dumping our new book wall.
Yeah.
There are things I want to read for myself, like Mark Waid's doing all new different Avengers 1 and 2. Of course I'm reading it because it's Mark Waid, because it's going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to read a lot of these books. There's just no time, and also, like you said, I'm tired.
My beef with the all different Avengers 1 and 2 is that are we going to get next month 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9, 10 every single month?
I don't know about that. My guess is they're probably just doing this for the initial launch.
Page 9 has a new Nova #1 with Sean Ryan. I'm interested in the character, but I don't know how long I'll stick with it.
Yeah. Well, Shane, this is for you on page 33, because we can't possibly talk about every single #1 in this book, but Uncanny Avengers Annual 1 written by James Robinson.
Yeah, that's not going to hurt. That'll be fun to read. And it's just an annual.
Yeah. Features Deadpool, Dr. Voodoo, Agatha Harkness. So that's cool.
And I'm not saying all these things in here will be bad. Me personally, I'm so #1'd out.
Page 38, the great Jerry Conway doing Carnage issues 1 and 2. That's interesting.
That really is. That's not a character I would think Jerry Conway would tackle.
Not at all.
I'm actually surprised Carnage is still around. But
especially since the Century ripped him in half a couple of years ago. So
yeah.
And when I think of 90s excess, Carnage is right at the top of the list.
Oh, it is. It is.
It's just, all right, we're going to milk Venom and his offshoot as much as we possibly can.
Yeah.
So let's do a derivative of Venom. So, and on page 44, Black Knight #1, he's going to end up in Weird World. I'm definitely going to try this. I love the character. So,
page 50 has all new Hawkeye with Jeff Lemire.
Yeah. Another premature relaunch there.
Yep.
Yeah, because Lemire just did another volume of Hawkeye. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is, only a few months ago, they finally released the last issue of the Matt Fraction Hawkeye, which was a tremendous series. I think it's a classic. It just came out very sporadically, so they finally finished that up. Then Lemire did another all-new Hawkeye, right?
Yeah, I thought so.
And then now they're going back again. Okay. Let's jump back to page 46 again. Let's do a shout-out for our friend and stalwart supporter, Tom King.
Yep.
The Vision #1. The Vision wants to be human, and what's more human than family? He goes to the laboratory where he was created, where Ultron molded him into a weapon, and what he's going to do here is he builds himself a wife, Virginia, two teenage twins, Viv and Vin. They look like him, they have his powers, they share his grandest ambition or perhaps obsession, unrelenting need to be ordinary. Behold the Visions. They're the family next door, and they have the power to kill us all. What could possibly go wrong? It's Tom King. I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
I love the Vision. Come on.
And nothing could go wrong. Come on. Nothing's going to go
wrong. They're doing a Howard the Duck #1, again being written by Chip Zdarsky.
Yes.
I always love any exposure this character gets. So I'll give that a try. All right, on page 54, automatically recommendation. I don't care what it's going on. It's Jason Aaron once again doing Thor. The Mighty Thor #1, again, focusing on... Murd, do you know who the female Thor is, or do you not want me to spoil it for you?
Well, it says it right there in the solicitation.
Oh, it does, doesn't it? That's right. Okay.
Yes, if you haven't read it, too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was disappointed because the first issue of that series, that character did not look, sound, or act in any way like Jane Foster. So it was kind of a disappointing reveal. I didn't feel like I'd been played fairly. But anyway, please proceed.
All I'm saying is, and I understand what you're saying, I've loved Aaron's all his work on Thor. I think he's done a tremendous job capturing both the grandeur of Thor's world, but also the human dimension of the character. And this is a book I'm looking forward to reading immensely. All right, I gotta love on page 59, Captain America Sam Wilson #3. That Misty Knight with, I'm assuming it's Sam Wilson becoming a werewolf. Oh, that's a great cover.
It was a wolf once, Chris.
So
I really hope we hear from Drunk Cap about this.
Oh, yeah. All right, now I'm looking at Karnak by Warren Ellis. I think we talked about this last month, but I'm really interested to see what Ellis is going to do with Karnak.
And that's an interesting redesign of Karnak, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, yeah, he's not in his traditional helmet with the garb. So I want to get back to Uncanny Inhumans because we read that Zero issue months ago, which I loved with Kang, and I didn't follow up with that, so I want to catch those issues because that was really interesting what they were doing with Kang in that first issue. I have yet to read Spider-Gwen here on page 66, so I can't comment on. I know a lot of people love the character, but I can't comment. I haven't even read Spider-Gwen.
Only that one issue that we did.
We did the first issue of the ongoing for.
Oh, that's right. Forgive me, I forgot about that. Okay.
Number 0 here reprints her first appearance from Edge of Spider-Verse #2. So if you missed that, and I'm sure a lot of people did, this is a chance to read it.
Okay. Again, on page 72, we mentioned this last month, but I'll say it again. It's Jason Aaron doing Doctor Strange.
That one has merit, yeah.
With Chris Pachalo, I think, is it pronounced properly? If not, Mr. Weathington will correct me. But I can't wait to read this. I absolutely cannot wait. I love Aaron's work, and I love Doctor Strange. He often doesn't get the attention he deserves. Of course, he has a movie coming out. So, and it's Benedict Cumberbatch, who is pretty much born to play the character. So, can't wait. Shane, on page... wait, there's no page numbers. I'm sorry,
82?
Go ahead.
Are you up at 82?
I am, yes.
Vader Down, a 6-part story with a Star Wars Vader Down #1 of 6, and then continuing in Darth Vader 13, Star Wars 13.
Okay, the Star Wars books that Marvel's produced have been so consistently outstanding that I'm really looking forward to reading this.
I think Vader's my favorite, though. As I've read the first maybe 6 of each of the main titles, I really think Vader's been my favorite.
I have not read the one about the Padawan who's on the Star Wars Rebels show, which is a great show.
That is a great show.
Vader, Princess Leia was very solid. The main Star Wars flag title, I think, is tremendous. But yeah, Shane, Vader is riveting. Now, are you caught up or no?
No.
Okay.
I have a couple issues to read.
So, first of all, very few people can draw Darth Vader as well as Salvador LaRocca does. I mean, phenomenal rendering of Vader. And all I'll say is, Shane, in the storyline as it continues, it's clear Vader is beginning to explore what actually happened to his wife.
Oh, wow.
So it's riveting. It's good stuff. Yeah, it's good stuff. So, Murd, you're going to speak. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, before we moved into the trade section of the book, I was going to go back and pick up a couple other all new, all different things that Marvel's throwing at us this month. Page 22 and 23, The Illuminati, #1. The title is perhaps not the best chosen because Marvel's kind of weakening an established brand here. Marvel readers have come to associate that title with a certain group of movers and shakers in the Marvel Universe, Professor X, Namor, and so forth. And here they're using it as the title for a book about a bunch of Down on their luck, Marvel Villains, which is a favorite concept of mine. And I know, Chris, you are my fellow Thunderbolts fan.
Oh, yes.
Bird looks like he stalled for a second.
Yes. He's frozen.
He is frozen.
Should I press on?
I think we lost Murd.
Oh. Forgive us, ladies and gentlemen, we're having a technical difficulty. We'll try to retrieve our comrade from the techno ether, so to speak.
So while we're doing that, Chris, so you've watched the Rebels cartoon. You just haven't...
Yes.
Have you picked up the comic, or are you just going to do that later, or not at all?
You mean about Kanan?
Yeah.
I'll read it eventually. We haven't finished the whole cartoon. I've seen a good chunk of it. Unfortunately, when we're watching on demand through my cable provider, and they didn't list them in chronological order. They listed them alphabetically. Oh. So we watched the last couple first before we realized what was actually happening. But I think it's outstanding. It's so well done.
Yeah.
Looks like Adam has returned. Yes, sir.
I'm back. I'm sorry. There was a momentary power outage here in Stone Harbor.
Oh, well, that explains it.
And that broke our connection, so I apologize for that.
Oh, that'll certainly do it.
All right. So,
Chris, did you see the did your service provider at least air that first episode of the second season maybe a month ago or so?
With Vader?
With Vader?
Oh, it was tremendous.
Yeah, it sure was.
I ate it up, and the fact that they got James Earl Jones to do the voice.
Oh, I know.
I was giggling. And it's just so well done.
Yeah.
And what I'm interested to see is in that show is what they're going to ultimately do with those characters, because I kind of get the sense that they're not all going to survive.
Oh, I do too.
Because what they're taking on a virtually unstoppable force by themselves, and they've established that they have connections to the main Rebel Alliance essentially. But when they fought Vader in that longer episode, I loved showing really how they barely had any chance whatsoever.
Yeah, he just toyed with them.
Yeah, it was awesome.
There was no hope at all.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Adam.
Good.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Adam.
Okay, yeah. Again, I'm sorry for being cut off there. Illuminati #1. It's a villain book. It's got the Hood, Titania, the Mad Thinker, the Enchantress, Thunderball of the Wrecking Crew, and the Black Ant. And they're just trying to get by in this new post-Secret Wars Marvel universe. So that hits me where I live. Page 26 and 27, we got that Hercules series. Dan Abnett writing street-level adventures of Hercules once again. So let's hope it lasts a little longer than the Herc series that he and Andy Lanning had a little while ago. And Ms. Marvel #1. There's one of the series that's being relaunched here. It's on pages 42 and 43. So Kamala Khan fans rejoice. But then wince a little bit when you notice that the first issue is 40 pages, $4.99. So I'm afraid that one of the few remaining bargains at Marvel Comics, the $2.99 ongoing Ms. Marvel series, is now going to be jacked up to the level of most other things Marvel's publishing. So kind of a sad day for that reason. But hey, more Kamala Khan stories.
And that's a character all I've read was the first issue, loved it. I've got trades sitting on my nightstand. I got to get to that book. Mm-hmm. So, now looking at trades, anybody mind if I go into trades?
No, go right ahead.
Go ahead.
They're reissuing some great omnibuses on page 101.
Yep.
Daredevil by Miller and Jansen, reprinting. This is an omnibus that's out before. They're reissuing it. $125. Issues 158 to 161, 163 to 191. What If 28. So this is Miller's first run on Daredevil pre-Born Again. This basically, my guess is everything we're going to see in the second Daredevil season on Netflix, it's all coming from this, essentially. Because they're going to have Elektra in it, they're going to have the Punisher, possibly Bullseye, I'm not sure about that, but this is classic stuff that we talked about in our spotlights on Daredevil. And right next to that, the Elektra by Frank Miller omnibus, which he did with Bill Sienkiewicz, also great. Just really addresses just how disturbed Elektra's world is, essentially. Essential reading. We have on page 102, this is a great omnibus, $100, because I just can't acknowledge $99.99. It's Captain America from the Silver Age to the Bronze Age, 114 to 148. Great stuff by Stan Lee, Gary Friedrich, with pencils by Cole and Ramita Sr., Buscema, Gray Morrow, Gil Kane, Sal Buscema. Awesome. A lot of the great Captain America and the Falcon stories, for example. In fact, this also showed the first appearance of the Falcon in these stories. Great stuff. Let's see.
I'm looking forward to maybe picking up some of the Secret Wars miniseries trades, like Years of Future Past or the Star-Lord and Kitty Pryde, things that I was interested in reading but didn't really want to pay for the issues. I'm happy to look at it and trade.
Understood. I mean, let's face it. It's basically like Marvel did a whole massive series of what-ifs, essentially.
Yeah.
And also harkening back to nostalgia for a lot of people for some of the different concepts. Now, if you're interested in... Go ahead, Shane. I'm sorry.
Page 118 has the second Black Panther by Christopher Priest, so thank you for my first volume, Chris, because I'm going to start that soon.
And Shane, you'll be getting the second one as well,
because... get out.
As Adam reminded me, next year is the 50th anniversary of the appearance of the Black Panther.
Nice.
And I've long been, preparing, at least in my head, a spotlight on that character because it was very close to my heart, and so we're gonna do that next year as appropriately to commemorate that character's anniversary.
Nice.
And hopefully, because the pre-series isn't that long, so they should be able to knock it out within 3 or 4 trades. So Shane, hopefully they'll have everything out, and you can read it all.
That'd be awesome.
Because that'll be one of the main focal points of that spotlight.
Oh, that'd be great.
So
that'd be a lot of
definitely
fun.
Be doing that. Jumping back to page 114, 150, Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. I really enjoyed that first issue, and they're collecting that in trade.
The title, Squirrel, You Know It's True.
Great. Interested in trying Spider-Gwen. They have issues 1 through 5 in Edge of Spider-Verse 2. Volume 0 is the name of that, the title of that trade. If you're a Deadpool fan, Deadpool vs. Thanos by Tim Seeley on page 117.
Oh. Yep, actually back on page 103, you've got a Deadpool Classic Omnibus hardcover collecting some of the post-Joe Kelly Deadpool stories by Christopher Priest, Gail Simone, and others. They're called Volume 1, but I don't know how they get away with that when Joe Kelly stuff is really the ground floor you need to get in on. So.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, Murd. That is unusual. And back to page 119, the Daredevil Volume 4. This collects the final arc of what I consider Mark Waid's legendary run on Daredevil. I consistently enjoyed his 2 volumes, essentially, on the character. And we'll see what they do with Daredevil post Secret Wars. As Shane mentioned on page 118, Black Panther by Christopher Priest, the complete collection, Volume 2. Again, for me, this is one of the finest. This is my favorite Marvel series of all time, without question. The geopolitical subtext, the humor, the reverent take on Marvel continuity, it's all there.
Nice.
This is interesting, Shane. On page 121, a Star Wars epic collection of the Infinity stories.
I liked a lot of those. I read the first 2. I didn't read the Jedi one, and I have the Star Wars 0 through 8 that was not too long ago released, last year. But yeah, if you like alternate reality type stuff, I think these are great stories to check out. And it's a nice collection.
And I haven't read all these, so I want to check this out.
Yeah.
And then on page 122, they're continuing to reprint the classic Jessica Jones Alias series, which for me is one of the finest things Brian Michael Bendis has done in his career. And obviously with Jessica Jones coming out, I believe it's in November, on Netflix, I can't wait to see how they adapt these storylines. I know Danielle is one of Danielle's beloved celebrity obsessions. David Tennant of Doctor Who fame will be portraying the Purple Man.
Yes.
In this series. So, looking forward to that.
Oh, that'll be wonderful.
Any more for Marvel, gentlemen?
No, I'm ready for the back of the book.
Back of the book.
All right. Excelsior.
Right on page 244, under Abrams Comic Arts.
Shane, you beat me to it. Well done.
Will Eisner's Champion of the Graphic Novel hardcover. Will Eisner is universally considered the master of comic storytelling and is best known for his iconic comic strip The Spirit and his seminal work A Contract with God. Since then, Eisner went on to write and illustrate over 20 award-winning graphic novels. Will Eisner, Champion of the Graphic Novel, by noted historian Paul Levitz, celebrates Eisner by including not only unpublished and rare art, photographs, letters, and sketches from the archives, but original interviews with creators such as Jules Pfeiffer, Art Spiegelman, Scott McCloud, Jeff Smith, and Neil Gaiman, all of whom knew and were inspired by Eisner. This looks like an incredible book.
Well, first of all, you've got Paul Levitz involved in it, and he's besides being a great creator, he's a great sort of a historian and custodian of the history of comics, right up there with Roy Thomas, for example. And I mean, besides Kirby, I mean, Eisner, I think, is widely considered, and for me at least, the most important creator in the American comic book medium. And any book like this is well worth checking out. So I'm definitely ordering a copy of this for myself, without question.
I read that Contract with God series. I have a hardcover of it a few years ago. It's phenomenal.
Not only that, if you go back and you just read some of the original Spirit stories, they are so ahead of their time.
Mm-hmm.
And just the dialogue, the characterization, the plot dynamics. This was a master of the form.
Well, and not only with what he was writing, his artwork is just out of this world, especially for the time.
Well, again, and you always go back to one of the classic aspects of Eisner's artwork is just how he would incorporate the title page into the storyline. The way he would incorporate buildings and architecture. I mean, and in no way I'm an expert on Eisner's art. This is common stuff everybody knows. But
yeah.
Anybody who's interested in comic book history, Will Eisner, definitely seek out some of his work. Now, next to that, and I know Pants love this, the collected Sip Kids trade paperback.
I love these two. They're fantastic.
These are wonderful from Terry Moore, where he takes his beloved Strangers in Paradise cast and recast them as children. Immensely fun. I mean,
so much fun.
We talk about Eisner as one of the all-time great masters. For me, Terry Moore is a living master of the comic book medium. He basically can do it all as far as I'm concerned.
And I'm going to channel Jamie here. If you still have not read Strangers in Paradise, get on it.
I think it's fair to say. I think it's fair to say that Jamie D will haunt you in some way if you've not read Strangers in Paradise.
It's such a great series.
It's a masterpiece. Let's see.
Action Lab has on page.
Volumes in. I'm working on.
Oh.
The only downside to this SIP Kids thing is that it's the complete SIP Kids. So that tells us that there's not going to be any more after this. It's a shame.
I hope not, but yeah, it's possible.
Now on page 2,
very strongly Charles flavored take on characters.
Yeah.
On page 264, Archie 4, Mark Waid is continuing to write the book, and they're bringing in a fine artist, Annie Wu, who I believe did work on Hawkeye with Fraction. I like her work quite a bit. She's a perfect artist for Archie. I read the first 2 issues, love them.
Really?
Love them. And the great Fiona Staples is a perfect fit for the characters. So I'm definitely sticking with this title. And I've barely ever read Archie before in my life, besides the zombie book they've been doing. So I'm really digging the new Archie. So I recommend that.
I'm going to jump back here for a second to the Action Lab Entertainment section of the book. Page 248. Action Lab is on the cusp of their first line-wide crossover. Over 20 different creators and their various properties are going to be a part of this thing. And they're starting it all off with an Action-verse number 0 one-shot. It's got Molly Danger in it, our friend Jamal Igel's Molly Danger character. Stray, which is kind of a take on a Nightwing-type full-grown former superhero sidekick. And Midnight Tiger. So, this 32-page one-shot that's going to pave the way to this big, crazy Action-verse crossover. Jamal was telling us about it at Heroes Con. He's excited. And on page 250, very interesting new thing from Action Lab. It's called Just Another Sheep. And it's about a timid and very impressionable young teenager with strange superpowers who hits the road on a journey of self-discovery to find out more about his powers and gets caught up in... This is all taking place in the year 1969. Just a danger and dissent-fraught cultural landscape that existed back then. He hits the road, and he gets swept up in every countercultural current he comes across. And so he goes along with every... crazy cause that tries to recruit him, and in the very first issue, he gets caught up with a bunch of extremist war protesters. Looks like it's going to be semi-psychedelic, as any book set in 1969 can hardly hope to be. So yeah, it sounds like my kind of read. So I'm going to give the first issue a try.
All right, I'm jumping ahead to page 272 with Avatar. Garth Ennis is I'm a huge Ennis fan, as many listeners know, is returning to his creation Crossed. Now, if you think The Walking Dead is hairy, all right, The Walking Dead is like kindergarten compared to this book. The original Cross series is one of the most terrifying comic books I've ever read in my life. I mean, there's a scene where they show a small child being torn to pieces by they're not zombies, they're people who have been infected by whatever this virus is. And it says here, Ennis returns to Cross, the special series that is designed to help bring this startling and disturbed world to film. Proceeds from this project will be used to bring Ennis' uncensored vision for a live-action Cross series written and directed by Ennis. Wow. All right, so he's doing 2 issues there, Cross, Dead or Alive, 1 and 2. The original Cross miniseries that Ennis wrote, it's brutal, but it's Ennis. It's a compelling, riveting story. But it's not for the faint-hearted, let me tell you.
Mm. Crossed frightens Warren Ellis. That's how intense it is.
Really? Huh!
Yeah, Chris is not underselling this at all, folks.
Yeah.
Or overselling it, I should say.
Yeah. Let's see.
Shane, did you see page 263?
I did, and I'm hopeful, but boy, I want to see an issue.
Yep, fingers crossed.
Sesame Street Blast from the past.
Crossed. Yep, yet another Sesame Street issue that we may or may not see in print. But, yeah.
I love it, but come on, man. I want to see it.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. I'm up on page 308 in the Dynamite section. Something interesting to me. I don't know that there's ever been one. A James Bond comic book.
I'm very excited for this.
James Bond #1, written by Warren Ellis.
Immediately. Oh.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
50% off at DCBS.
I mean, I'm a huge Bond fan. I am salivating at the onset of Spectre in November.
Yeah, me too.
Especially with Christoph Waltz as the villain, for God's sake. I mean, that's inspired casting. For me, Daniel Craig I think is one of the all-time great James Bonds. So, Shane, I'm totally going to read this. I cannot wait.
Oh, on page 287, I thought
this is where I was going to go next. You ready?
Talk about this.
Yeah.
By Boom, Kloss #1 of 6.
So it's a Grant Morrison rendition. Murd, are you going to read this on Santa Claus?
I don't know what to think about this. I mean, I have enjoyed and I have even loved quite a few different takes on the Santa Claus story. But and this is not the first time someone's tried to pull like a Sword of Santa Claus kind of take on things. Regardless, it's not as revolutionary as Morrison seems to think in his little editorial here on page 286. He claims no one's ever tried to come up with a definitive origin for Santa Claus before. That's not at all true. Everyone from L. Frank Baum to Rankin and Bass has done origin stories for Santa Claus. And it's not even the first time that someone's tried to portray the young Santa Claus or St. Nicholas as a sword-wielding barbarian, for that matter. I'm sure this is going to be a classier take on something like that. At other times that this was tried, it was mainly as a joke. But yeah, I've got reservations about it. I'm kind of a Santa purist, and to see Santa Claus go from this blood-spattered Teutonic hunter with a giant wolf sidekick to the Santa that we all know and love, it's Morrison. And seeing Siberian shamanism brought to play on one of the greatest folk legends in world history and culture. It's tantalizing, but at the same time, I don't know if it's the kind of Santa story I really want to be reading. So I think I may end up waiting until there's like a cloth-bound, like little golden book edition that I can put on my on my bookshelf later on, and that I can maybe borrow from somebody else before making up my mind. But I don't think I'm going to be buying this in single issues, though. This is the opinion of a Christmas professional here.
And that's why I wanted to give you the last word, because that is your business.
Yeah.
So I'm jumping ahead. Go ahead, Mert. I'm sorry.
It's 50% off at dcbservice.com. Just for those of you more curious than I and would like to have it at a discount, there you go. 50% off at DCBS.
I like to try everything Morrison does, so I'll give it a shot. I'm jumping ahead to page 334, Dover Publications, Night and the Enemy graphic novel, 5 stories by Harlan Ellison, drawn by Ken Stacey, I believe. It's Ellison. I mean, this sounds very interesting. This tale of the Earth's war with an alien race features a clever framing device specially written by Ellison that links the individual stories. Also includes Ellison's short story, The Few, the Proud. I mean, Ellison is one of the great writers of science fiction and other genres, in the 20th century. So I'm looking forward to that. The next page, this is very interesting. And again, there's a personal here for me. Show a History of Japan by Shigeru Mizuki. These look tremendous. A 500-page volume chart Japan's national history from the decades before World War II through the war, its defeat and occupation, and rebirth alongside the personal stories of individuals living their lives against a momentous history. Wow. That looks fascinating.
Yeah, that's right up your alley.
Yep. I love a good history comic. What else is jumping out at people in the back of the book here?
Let's see, page 330. We've got an original graphic novel from the resurgent Devil's Due publications. It's called Captain Freebird, American Prayer. And it's a slightly... I've seen this character before, actually, Captain Freebird. I think he made a couple of appearances in, I want to say, Sirius Comics back in the late 90s. He's basically... Well, just picture one of the main characters from Easy Rider if he one day decided to be a superhero. That's basically what Captain Freebird is. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. And it's once again returning us to that kind of late 60s American landscape, similar to Just Another Sheep. So it's if that sounds appealing to you, and it kind of does to me. I enjoyed the very limited glimpse of Captain Freebird that I got back in the late 90s. So I think I may try this extended-length graphic novel to get a little more of that.
I want to point out, I'm ahead here to page 367 under the legendary imprint, Cops for Criminals, written by Stephen Grant, who did very important Punisher stories in the 80s, and art by Pete Woods. Now, Shane, didn't Pete Woods do great work on Robin, for example?
He did at
He
that.
must have,
Yeah, early 2000s, right about the point I'm right up to, actually.
Yeah, he's an artist. Murd, the time bubble serves us well. He's an artist I've always liked. Let me read this solicitation. Cops for Criminals. When a federal agent becomes a victim of the system he has sworn to uphold, he finds true justice in the criminal underworld. Agent Woods is one of the best, but everything changed when he was wrongfully convicted and labeled a traitor. After serving his time, this ex-convict is cut loose from the lawless streets to fight corruption on both sides of the law. Even criminals need a code, and every code needs an enforcer. I mean, that's a good creative team. That may be worth checking out.
Yeah, I don't remember him doing stuff on Catwoman, but yeah, his Robin stuff was great.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. So shout out to Pete Woods there.
I think I may have found a diamond in the rough back on page 359.
Please.
It's from Heavy Metal Magazine. It's called Three Floyds, Rise of the Alpha King. Enter this as evidence that the marvelously multifarious medium of comics can be used to tell stories about damn near anything. This is a story about beer making. It's a tale of the rise of craft brewers. Three Floyds, I think, is the name of an artisan brewery. And it's written, this story about beer making is written by Brian Azzarello with art by Simon Bisley.
Wow.
These are big-name creators telling comic stories about guys who make beer. So if you like beer and you like comics and you like Brian Azzarello, and I know most of us here like all three of those things, this sounds like a comic you should check out. It's a 4-issue miniseries, first issue coming out with a cover price of $3.50 from Heavy Metal.
Murd, I'm glad you caught that because that's. I mean, the back of the previews can be very daunting. We've talked about this before, but there's always stuff that you worth looking at that you may have passed over. And Murd, I totally missed that book. I'm glad you pointed it out.
Now, page 362 has, under Joe Books, Inc., Disney's Darkwing Duck and Phineas and Ferb omnibus trade paperbacks, which I kind of thought we saw at least the Darkwing Duck one not long ago, but I could be wrong.
And I think this is the Boom Studios stuff that's being reprinted here.
I think so, too. It doesn't say it, but it wouldn't. It does say as seen on TV.
Yeah. Phineas and Ferb, I think, is just like the Cinemanga thing. It's just like animation cells put directly onto a printed page.
You know, I had some good old Star Blazers comics like that, too, once upon a time.
I'm jumping ahead, and again, I always jump back if necessary, to the Titan section. Where again, they do a lot of Doctor Who adaptations if you're a Doctor Who fan. But for me, it's on page 408, Johnny Red #1. Written by Garth Ennis, art by Keith Page. Legendary British fighter ace Johnny Redburn returns once more as the commander of the Falcons, a Russian fighter squadron battling the Nazis in the skies over Stalingrad.
Nice.
Well, again, Ennis, military comics, nobody does it better. Highest recommendation.
That does look good.
Yeah, that had you all over it, Chris. I knew you couldn't miss that one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to make one of those jumps backward, actually, right now.
Please.
To page 370. This is the Legendary Comics section. It seems that we're going to be getting some Pacific Rim comics based on the giant monster kaiju fight.
Yeah, sure.
Mecha movie of a couple summers ago. Written by Joshua Hale Fialkov, no less. And below that, we've got a graphic novel based on an upcoming horror comedy movie, another dark Christmas tale coming up this month.
Yeah, I saw a preview.
Shadow of St. Nicholas, based on the infamous folkloric figure, the kind of antithetical opposite number to Santa Claus, a satyr-like demonic being that went along with Santa Claus and gave out whipping switches and or whippings to bad children, and sometimes kidnapped the especially naughty ones to be eaten later. This is an actual figure from Germanic folklore. He's become more visible in contemporary culture, and apparently there's a movie coming out based on him, so here's a graphic novel to go along with that.
I saw a preview the other day of it. It looks a little weird. Not bad, sure, just a little bit freaky.
And speaking of things that are weird and freaky, on page 381 under Oni Press, we've got a collection of some early-ish work of Cullen Bunn and Matt Kint, sort of a love letter to 70s indie comics and horror comics. The Tooth. Apparently a life-sized, humanoid, walking, talking, enamel-covered tooth and his bizarre adventures in kind of a barbarian landscape. It looks like spooky Bronze Age crude fun. I've seen solicitations for tooth material before, but here's a new edition, a new collection, 200 pages for $25. I think I may just jump on board this time.
Does anybody have more comics? Because I have stuff to say in books and magazines. But again, if you have more comics, please shout out.
I am done with the comics. We can go to the books and magazines.
How about Adam? How about you? Are you done with comics or no?
I have one more thing marked here.
Please, sir. Please.
It's on page 386. It's from Red 5 Comics. It's called Versus #1, and it's a story that apparently is kind of a send-up of the genre of comic entertainment that takes the form of blank versus blank. You know, like monkey versus lemur and pirate versus ninja and all that stuff. It's a kind of story that Jamie used to be a sucker for, especially if one of the participants was a monkey. We do have apes versus cheerleaders going on in the background of this, but it's positing the possibility that all of those stories took place in a single kind of battle world where nothing ever happens but different entertainment tropes battling each other. And it asks the question, what would happen if one of these pairings that are supposed to be fighting each other had to team up and go on a life-changing adventure together? It could be a genius deconstruction of a subgenre of comics entertainment, or it could just be silly. I don't know for certain, but it'll cost you $3.50 to find out the answer for yourself. And I think that's about all I've got as far as comics go. So,
all right, jumping ahead to page 443, I love this publisher, Taschen. They've done the wonderful suitcase-sized Marvel and DC history books.
Sure.
They've done a series of books on eras in the DC universe. Now they're doing a series of little books. The little books are a spin-off of the larger DC series from Taschen, but focused on one superhero per book. So the Batman one covers the Golden Age to the Modern Age. They have Superman and Wonder Woman, introductions by Paul Levitz, captions throughout, and they're only $9.99.
Yeah, not bad at all.
That's really cool. Now, I'm looking at also in the magazine section. I always have to do a shout-out for tomorrow's.
Mm-hmm.
Alter Ego 137, interview with Jim Shooter, starting with his career beginning at the age of 13 in 1965, which that'll be Shooter's such an important figure and controversial figure in the history of comics. Definitely want to read that. And then this is long overdue. And they note that here. Comic Book Creator 11, all a tribute to Gil Kane.
Nice.
A favorite artist of both mine and Mr. Peter Rios, one of our glorious founders.
Nice. And
this is a magazine I'll be definitely buying and cherishing. I love Kane's work. He's such an important creator. Co-creator of the Silver Age Green Lantern and the Atom. He drew the classic Death of Gwen Stacy, Death of Green Goblin stories, so much other stuff. Such an important creator, and he deserves all his due and more. What else do people have in the back? Anything?
I like page 468. It's the long Halloween T-shirt, the Batman carved out pumpkin.
Yes, that's a nice one.
Page 446 under books, we've got an original Oz novella written and illustrated by the great Eric Shanower. See, doing his own Oz artwork here. So this is going to look the way Oz is supposed to look.
So, Murd, I assume you're going to be picking that up.
I very well may.
Excellent. Now, as I always enjoy, because a lot of it's just so ridiculous, is going through the toys, the novelties. Because
Sure.
you always wonder, who has the money to buy all this stuff? Because some of it, but a lot of it is just good, goofy fun.
Like, say, page 504, the Home Alone 8-inch cloth action figures. That's crazy.
Terrific.
At $30 a piece.
Yeah. Wow. You can get Joe Pesci. By the way, just recently, my wife and I watched again. I hadn't seen it in years. My Cousin Vinny. That movie. That is so funny. That film.
The two Utes.
What performances?
The two Utes. What's a Ute?
Now, on page 498 and 499, we are slowly getting into the pop figures at Wild Pig.
Yep.
And we're going to try them. Ones that are more conducive to our comic environment at the store. There's just so many of them, and I find it a little daunting. And I told Bill, let's give this a try for a period of months and see how they do.
My boys are hooked.
Yeah, but I mean, just in here they have Groot. They got who do they have here? They got
Fifth Element vinyl figures, the Gigantor, the Once Upon a Time, Nightmare Before Christmas.
I mean, it's so vast.
I did acquire a Dalek.
All right.
The kids found one somewhere and they dropped it off for work. The next page has the Nightmare Before Christmas Jack Skellton soft plush, the Batman Arkham Knight one, the Andre the Giant on page 501, which is a bunch of WWE ones.
If you're a fan of the Predator on page 505, and if you have $120, you can buy his Jungle Hunter quarter-inch scale action figure, which looks quite detailed. I've had a hankering to watch Predator 2 again. I haven't seen that in a long time.
I like Predator 2.
I want to see Danny Glover go to town.
Yep. Plus, at the end, that little throwaway little Easter egg of the alien skull in the middle of a ship, and then that turned into a whole genre unto itself.
Yep, Aliens versus Predator. One other thing I want to point that I think I've shot my bolt. Just thinking of you, Murd, on page 555, you can get either an Infinity Gauntlet bank or a Thanos, grinning evilly bank. So that's something for your home or office. And Shane, you'll appreciate this. Go ahead, Murd. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say I only have room for one novelty coin bank on my dresser, and it's already taken up with a Green Lantern Hal Jordan bust.
Fair enough.
Sorry.
Shane, I gotta love this, and as a fellow Trek fan, you'll appreciate page 557.
Yep.
Okay, they've got Shatner in the classic pose with the hand at the chin as he contemplates the mysteries of the universe, or perhaps some female member of the crew. But that is vintage. Now, I don't have $135 to bookend, but
there you go.
Oh, that is the essence of Shatner right there. Gentlemen, I've shot my bolt unless you have other things you want to add.
The Princess Bride Brute Squad playing cards on page 556. Come on. No, I'm good. a lot of crazy stuff in the back of the book.
Yeah, I can't even focus on it. I did think of one more thing in the comics section, though, for James' sake, actually, because he was such a Valiant booster while he was still with us. There are a couple of things at Valiant. There's the first issue of an ongoing Wrath of the Eternal Warrior series, kind of spinning out of the recent Book of Death stuff that they've had going on at Valiant, which in turn spun out of The Valiant, the 4-issue miniseries, which I believe introduced the Eternal Warrior to this new iteration of the Valiant universe. And speaking of that, Valiant is reprinting the first issue of that The Valiant 4-issue miniseries in a $1 format. That is artwork by Paulo Rivera, written by the dream team of Jeff Lemire and Matt Kint. It is great-looking comics. It's great-written comics. It was probably one of the best miniseries of last year. I don't know if we acknowledged it to the extent it deserved. $1. So you have a chance to pick that up again and look at it for $1 from Valiant, and then go right to Wrath of the Eternal Warrior, #1 from there.
Murd, high praise, and you're right. Those are all tremendous creators. Paulo Rivera is a favorite of mine, so I definitely have to check that out.
You don't get to see him do interiors that often, but
true.
He's doing them here.
And if you ever get to see him sketch at a convention, I've said it before, watch him. He sets up a mirror so you can see what's going on. Oh, it's a fantastic setup.
I have a colored Dr. Doom sketch he did that hangs proudly behind the register of Wild Cake.
Awesome.
Yeah, he did one of my favorite Bizarro drawings, too, in watercolor.
I often want to, if I ever get the money, get him to do a Starman like that. Oh, just absolutely fantastic. All right, this episode was brought to you by the fine folks at Discount Comic Book Service. That's dcbservice.com. Go there for all your pre-ordering needs. Check out their specials, their bundles, and their discounts, especially when they run the half off, as in this month it's all half off DC, Marvel, DC trades, and hardbacks. So check that out. To send us an email, I backed up. Visit us at comicgeekspeak.com. To send an email, the address is comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. To leave a voicemail, the number is 267-702-6642. Stop by The Comic Forums and let us know what you're getting out of previews. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. Thanks to everyone who sends us emails and packages and good wishes. We appreciate it. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes. I'm laughing as Chris is. He's doing something goofy.
I was doing the Batusi for you.
Anyway, go ahead. And as always,
skipping out over there.
We are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time. Whoops, I hit the wrong button. Son of a gun. There we go.
Laser beams, opinions like the seasons on everything you read in comics, movies, games, toys, artists, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek. Uniting the world's mightiest heroes. This is Comic Geek Speak.
Blackity blue.